In May 2019, 11 people died on Mount Everest in just 3 days. That might not sound unusual. Everest kills people every year. But here's what makes these deaths different. The weather was perfect. Clear blue skies, no wind, ideal visibility. The kind of conditions climbers wait months for. And yet those 3 days became the deadliest stretch on Everest in recent history. Weeks earlier, Cyclone Fani had battered the mountain. Climbers huddled in tents for days as the storm raged. 0 deaths. This is called the Bluebird Paradox. In mountaineering, a bluebird day means perfect conditions: clear sky, calm winds, fresh snow. And on certain mountains, it's the most dangerous thing that can happen. Today we're ranking 10 mountains where more people die in good weather than bad, from the smallest to the highest. We'll show you why sunshine can be deadlier than storms, what specific mechanism kills on each peak, and how experienced climbers have learned to fear the forecast when it's too perfect. Let's start small, because the first mountain on this list is shorter than most ski resorts, and it holds a world record for violence. We're starting in New Hampshire, at a mountain you've probably never heard of. Mount Washington stands at just 1,917 meters. That's barely a hill compared to the Himalayas. But in 1934, scientists at the Summit Observatory recorded wind speeds of 231 miles per hour. For decades, it was the highest wind speed ever measured on Earth's surface. And since 1849, this little mountain has killed at least 161 people. Here's where the Bluebird trap becomes lethal. Mount Washington sits at the intersection of 3 major storm systems. Weather can change from calm to hurricane force in under 15 minutes. But the real killer isn't the storms. It's what happens on clear days. On May 9, 2016, a man named Francois Carrier started hiking up the auto road. It was 60 degrees and sunny at the base, perfect spring weather. He was wearing light clothing. At the summit that same hour, the temperature was 15 degrees Fahrenheit with 80-mile-per-hour winds. Wind chill was well below zero. Carrier was reported missing 3 days later. His body was found on May 28th near the Lion Head Trail. Cause of death was environmental hypothermia. In May. The clear weather at the base convinced him the summit would be similar. The mountain gave no warning. By the time he realized conditions had changed, he was already hypothermic. Researchers who study deaths on Mount Washington have identified a disturbing pattern. More people die from hypothermia here in summer than in winter, because in winter, you expect to die. In summer, you expect a nice hike. That's on a mountain where thousands of people drive to the top every year. Now, imagine what happens when 200,000 people climb a mountain with the same weather violence, but twice as high. From New Hampshire, we fly across the world to Japan. Mount Fuji is the most climbed mountain on Earth. Over 200,000 people summit it every year, most of them during a 2-month window when the weather is calmest. The Japanese call the most popular climbing style bullet climbing. You start at night, race to the summit to catch sunrise, then descend. The entire trip takes 8 to 12 hours, and most years, several people die doing exactly this. The official climbing season runs from early July to mid-September. Warm, clear, calm conditions. The mountain looks benign, families bring children, the trails are crowded and well-maintained. But Fuji has a secret that only becomes obvious when you look at the death statistics by weather. The mountain sits in a completely different climate zone at its summit than at its base. On clear, calm nights, which is when most people climb, the temperature can drop 20 degrees Celsius from bottom to top. And because there's no storm to warn you, people just keep climbing. In July 2024, a civil servant from Hong Kong in his 50s collapsed at around 3,100 meters during a bullet climb. The weather at the base was perfect summer conditions. At 3,100 meters, his body couldn't handle the altitude and cold. He died before he could be evacuated. 6 people died on Fuji during the 2024 climbing season alone, all during the safe months, all on days that looked ideal. From Japan, we head to Scotland. Ben Nevis is the highest mountain in the British Isles, at just 1,345 meters. It's often dismissed as an easy day hike, but since 1849, over 100 people have died here. and many of them were experts who died on clear, warm days. The summit of Ben Nevis is a plateau surrounded by massive cornices in winter and spring. Cornices are overhanging snow shelves that extend over sheer cliffs. Here's the deadly part. You can't see where the solid ground ends and the cornice begins. On clear days, when the sun warms the snow, these cornices become structurally unstable. The same sunshine that makes the climb pleasant is actively weakening the platform you're standing on. But there's a second mechanism. When the sun heats snow on a clear day, it melts slightly on the surface. That meltwater then refreezes on your crampons, building up layer after layer until you're walking on ice stilts. Climbers call this balling up. It destroys your grip. About 20 years ago, an expert mountaineer named Tim descended Ben Nevis on a beautiful spring day. He'd just completed a technical winter climb on the north face. Perfect conditions, clear skies. On the descent, a sun-weakened cornice collapsed beneath him. His crampons had balled up in the warm conditions. When the cornice gave way, he had no traction. He fell nearly 700 feet. Sir Chris Bonington, one of the most famous mountaineers in British history, rushed to help. A helicopter airlifted Tim to the hospital. His injuries were too severe. He died from the fall. An expert climber, perfect technique, best conditions of the year, killed by a combination of sun-weakened snow and warm weather equipment failure. Sun-softened terrain at 1,300 meters. That's dangerous enough. But at 4,400 meters, with afternoon thunderstorms that arrive like clockwork, the clear weather trap operates on a schedule. From Scotland, we fly back to the United States. Mount Whitney is the highest peak in the lower 48 states at 4,421 meters. Over 30,000 people attempt to summit it every year. And on clear summer days, it becomes a death trap for a reason most hikers never consider: lightning. The Sierra Nevada has a predictable weather pattern in summer. Mornings are clear and calm. By early afternoon, thunderstorms build over the peaks with almost perfect reliability. Most hikers start early, summit by noon, and descend before the storms arrive. That's the plan. But Whitney's summit is a massive granite slab. When a storm rolls in, lightning doesn't just strike the peak, it strikes everywhere. In August 1990, Matthew Nordbrock was near the summit when a storm moved in faster than expected. He sheltered in the stone hut at Whitney's Peak, a structure built to offer protection. Lightning struck the hut. Stone conducts electricity. Nordbrock was killed instantly. That stone hut is what engineers call a Faraday cage. On a clear morning, it looks like safety. When lightning is active, it becomes an electric conductor. The cruel irony of Whitney is that the Bluebird trap operates on a schedule. Clear skies invite you up the mountain in the morning. Afternoon thunderstorms catch you exposed on the summit, the same pattern day after day, all summer long. Every year, hikers who trust the morning sunshine get caught in the afternoon electricity. The clear forecast isn't just misleading, it's part of the mechanism that creates the danger. Predictable lightning is at least something you can time, but the next mountain releases something from above that gives you no warning at all. From California, we head north to Washington State. Mount Rainier is the most heavily glaciated peak in the lower 48, with 50 square kilometers of ice clinging to its slopes. Glaciers have a deadly secret. They're full of hidden crevasses covered by snow bridges. And those bridges collapse most often on warm, clear days when the sun weakens the snow structure. June 21st, 1981. The first day of summer, perfect weather on Mount Rainier. 11 members of a climbing party were ascending the Ingraham Glacier at about 11,000 feet. Without warning, a massive ice avalanche broke loose from above. A serac, a tower of glacial ice the size of a building, had been destabilized by the warm temperatures throughout the day. The ice buried the entire climbing party. All 11 died. It remains the deadliest single accident in American mountaineering history. They were experienced climbers, properly roped together. They did everything right. The clear, warm weather killed them anyway. The physics is simple. Ice expands when it freezes and contracts when it warms. On cold, stormy days, the ice is stable. On warm, clear days, the ice shifts. Seracs lean, snow bridges thin, cornices sag. In 2023, an 80-year-old man named Dawes Eddy fell into a crevasse on Rainier. He was found 600 feet down, deceased. The day was clear and warm. The snow bridge he crossed had thinned throughout the morning. 80 years old and still climbing, still trusting the sunshine. The glacier didn't care about his experience, but Rainier's glaciers are stable compared to what happens in the European Alps. On the next mountain, clear weather doesn't just weaken snow bridges. It makes the mountain itself come apart. From the American Northwest, we fly across the Atlantic to the Alps. Mont Blanc is the highest peak in Western Europe at 4,809 meters, and it's the deadliest mountain in the world by total body count. More people have died here than on Everest, K2, and Annapurna combined. The mountain averages around 100 deaths per year, and a disturbing percentage happen in a single location during a specific weather condition, the Grand Couloir. The Grand Couloir is a steep gully on the most popular route to the summit. To reach the top, climbers must cross it. The crossing takes about 17 minutes. Here's the problem. The Grand Couloir is a bowling alley where rocks are the balls. Rockfall here is constant, and the Petzl Foundation installed sensors to measure exactly when it's worst. Peak rockfall occurs about 2 hours after peak daily temperature. On clear days, when the sun heats the rock face all morning, ice that's been holding loose stones in place begins to melt. By late morning and early afternoon, those stones fall. Climbers who start early to take advantage of good weather often cross the couloir right when rockfall is most intense. The clear weather that made them confident is actively bombarding them with debris. In August 2024, a 52-year-old climber was struck and killed by rockfall in the couloir. Perfect conditions, clear visibility. He could probably see the rock that killed him coming. There was simply nowhere to go. That's nearly 4 deaths per year in a single 17-minute stretch of climbing. All because clear weather turns the mountain into an artillery range. 100 deaths per year, most on clear days. But Mont Blanc at least has guides, huts, and rescue helicopters minutes away. The next mountain has none of that, and it kills at nearly the same rate. From Mont Blanc, we stay in the Alps. The Matterhorn might be the most recognizable mountain shape on Earth. That distinctive pyramid has been printed on 1 billion chocolate bars. It's also killed over 500 climbers since the first descent in 1865. And the first descent itself was a Bluebird trap. July 14, 1865. After years of failed attempts, a team of 7 climbers finally reached the summit. Perfect weather, clear skies. They'd done it. On the descent, one climber slipped. The rope connecting him to 3 others held just long enough to pull all 4 off the mountain. Then it snapped. 4 men fell 4,000 feet to their deaths on a perfect day. After 160 years, the Matterhorn's death rate is about 1 in 415 successful summits. Today, the most common killer isn't falling, it's crowding. And crowding only happens on clear days. When weather is good, the standard route becomes a traffic jam. Climbers stack up at the fixed ropes, waiting for others to pass. Every minute of delay adds fatigue. Fatigue leads to mistakes. The Matterhorn's 1 in 415 death rate is shocking. But there's a mountain where clear weather doesn't just create danger, it creates near certain death, where the fatality rate isn't 1 in 415, it's 1 in 3. From the Alps, we fly east to the Himalayas. Annapurna is the 10th highest mountain in the world at 8,091 meters, and it's the deadliest of all 14 8,000-meter peaks. For every 3 people who have summited, 1 has died trying. The mountain's historical death rate is around 32%. Recent years have lowered it slightly, but it remains the most lethal major peak on Earth. Why? Avalanches. Annapurna's slopes are steep, unstable, and loaded with snow. When that snow releases, there's nowhere to run. And when does snow release most often? When the sun heats it on clear days. The pattern is so well documented that experienced climbers actually prefer to attempt Annapurna at night or during marginal weather when the snowpack is more stable. But clear weather creates summit fever. Climbers see blue sky and push for the top despite increased avalanche danger. On December 25, 1997, legendary climber Anatoly Bukreev was killed by an avalanche on Annapurna's south face. Bukreev was one of the most experienced high-altitude climbers in the world. He'd survived the 1996 Everest disaster and saved multiple lives. The conditions on Christmas Day, 1997 were clear and calm, perfect visibility, light winds, ideal climbing weather by conventional standards. An avalanche swept him off the mountain. His body was never recovered. The physics is brutal. Cold snow is stable, warm snow is unstable. Sunshine warms snow. The clearer the day, the more solar radiation hits the slopes. The more radiation, the warmer the snow. The warmer the snow, the more avalanches. Annapurna kills 1 in 3 who attempt it. But even that horrific statistic is overshadowed by what happened on the next mountain. A single route, a single day in 1936, the most famous death in mountaineering history. And it happened on a perfect summer day. From the Himalayas, we return to the Alps. The Eiger's north face is called the Mordwand. In German, that means murder wall. This 1,800-meter wall of limestone and ice has killed more than 60 climbers since the first attempts in the 1930s. And the most famous death happened in full view of tourists on a perfect summer day. July 1936, 4 young climbers were attempting the first descent of the North Face. 2 Germans, Andreas Hinterstoisser and Toni Kurz. 2 Austrians, Willi Angerer and Eddie Rayner. They made good progress on the first day. Clear weather, excellent conditions. By the second day, they were committed to the face. Then Angerer was hit by rockfall. Clear weather, remember, loosens rocks. He was injured badly enough that the team decided to retreat. To descend, they had to reverse a difficult section called the Hinterstoisser Traverse. On the way up, they'd fixed a rope across it. But after they crossed, they pulled the rope up to use higher on the face. Without the rope, the traverse was impossible to reverse. They were trapped. An unexpected storm moved in. Within hours, all 4 were fighting for their lives. Angerer died first, then Rayner. Then Hinterstoisser fell trying to find another way down. That left Toni Kurz alone, hypothermic, one hand frozen solid, hanging from a rope on the face. Below him, rescue teams had gathered. They could see him, they could hear him. They lowered a rope up to him. All he had to do was tie a knot and they could pull him to safety. But to tie the rope to his harness, Kurz had to thread it through a carabiner. The knot joining 2 rope sections was too big to pass through. He worked for hours, frostbitten fingers, frozen equipment, tourists watching through telescopes from the hotel below. Finally, he got the knot through. The rescuers began pulling him down. He was meters from safety. And then he stopped. His last words, "Ich kann nicht mehr." I can't go on anymore. He died hanging from the rope, within reach of rescue. The clear weather that invited them onto the wall was what trapped them there. If conditions had been poor from the start, they never would have attempted the climb. The perfect day was the trap. 1 mountain left, the highest, the most famous, and the one where the Bluebird trap has killed more people in a single week than any other peak in history. Which brings us back to where we started. May 2019. After weeks of storms, the weather finally cleared on Everest. Climbers who'd been waiting at base camp saw their window. Everyone moved at once. This photo, taken by Nirmal Purja, shows the result. A single file line of climbers, hundreds of them, waiting to summit. The traffic jam extended for over a mile below the summit. The problem isn't the photo. The problem is time. Above 8,000 meters, the human body is actively dying. Every minute spent at that altitude causes irreversible damage. Brain cells die from lack of oxygen. Blood thickens. Judgment fails. When the weather is bad, nobody climbs. The mountain protects itself through storms. When the weather is perfect, everyone climbs at once. The mountain becomes a killing field through congestion. Donald Cash, 55, from Utah. He summited on May 22, 2019, then collapsed on the descent, dead from exhaustion after waiting hours. In the traffic, Anjali Kulkarni, 54, from India. She reached the summit on May 23rd. On the descent, she ran out of oxygen while stuck behind other climbers. She collapsed and died. Robin Haynes Fisher, 44, from the UK. He'd written a social media post before the climb warning about the dangers of short weather windows. He summited. He died on the descent. He knew. He warned others, and he died anyway. Here's the terrible irony. A longer weather window would have saved lives. If clear weather had lasted 10 days instead of 3, climbers would have spread out their summit attempts. Shorter windows of perfect weather concentrate everyone into the same 72-hour period. The better the forecast, the more compressed the attempts. The more compressed the attempts, the deadlier the mountain becomes. That's the Bluebird Paradox at its purest. Perfect conditions, perfect visibility, perfect blue sky, and the highest death toll in the mountain's modern history. 10 mountains, 10 mechanisms, all ranked by how deadly the sunshine becomes. Ed Viesturs, the first American to summit all 14 8,000-meter peaks, has a saying: "Getting to the summit is optional, getting down is mandatory." The paradox of mountaineering is that bad weather gives you permission to turn around. The storm becomes the excuse. Nobody questions your decision to retreat in a blizzard. Good weather takes all of that away. It leaves you with nothing but your investment, your ego, and your exhaustion at the moment you most need clear thinking. The Bluebird trap isn't about weather at all. It's about what perfect conditions do to human decision-making. The mountain doesn't care about the forecast: warm snowslides, heated rockfalls, melted ice collapses. Clear skies bring crowds. Crowds create delays. Delays cause deaths. So the next time you see a perfect weather forecast, understand what that forecast really means. The mountain isn't smiling at you. If you want to understand the small decisions that compound into massive consequences on mountains, I made a video breaking down the everyday choices that have killed experienced climbers. It's on screen now.